I think employers should do, and one thing that I do with candidates, especially if they've moved through that interview process, is debrief with them. Just as I would debrief with the hiring manager, right? Debrief with that candidate as well. You at times will find out that they're not even interested anymore after meeting with the hiring manager, so that way you don't have to worry about getting ghosted later, right? But asking those questions, seeing how their experience was, thus far, and maybe, answering any other questions that they might have that might have came up that they didn't quite ask in the first interview, but they need a little bit more clarity on. So I think putting those processes in place to ensure that you're touching those candidates throughout that recruiting process is important, as well as, I know it can be tedious and time consuming. Believe me, I do it on a daily basis, going through those resumes, those applications. But especially when you see candidates that, yeah, they're not quite there, but if it's a possibility, reach out to them, have a conversation, because some candidates just are not skilled when it comes to writing a resume and selling themselves. So reaching out to them and talking to them, starting the conversation. It may just be a 5-minute conversation because you might realize, yeah, this is not a good match. This is not the right opportunity for that candidate. But it could turn into a 30-minute conversation, or you might end up getting a referral from someone that they may know, that can fill an open opportunity that you might have. So I think really putting those processes in place so that way you can try to touch as many as possible. You won't be able to touch all, I'm sure, with the hundreds of applications you're seeing, but try to touch as many as possible. And then for the candidates themselves, selling yourself. A lot of candidates that I see come through, they look good on paper. They have the experience, they have the educational background that I'm looking for to fill opportunity. But when they get into a room, a panel interview, they struggle with selling themselves. So I think, coaching them and giving them information. Here's the job description, so that what you can review, I think is helpful, so that way that they can try to better prepare for that first meeting. But those are the two things that I would like individuals to think about: following up and creating those systems, those debrief systems.
Fantastic. Thanks. I really like that candidate debrief. That's great. And Lynn, how about you?
Yeah, just 2 points really. First, from the company standpoint, again, really think about your peak and end, and there's lots of little steps in between, but if you can add something unique to the beginning and the end, that certainly can help. And I also want, again, as part of this marketing, as it's difficult sometimes to find qualified candidates, sometimes we put parameters and restrictions around even how we post a job, like you must have 5 years experience or 10 years experience. And granted, if you take out years of experience, you might get lots of people who are underqualified. But at the same time, could it be better to really word it around, here are the skills and experiences. Have you done this? Have you done something like that? Versus saying 5 years, because it may have some people shy away saying, well, I really only have 3 years, because again, to Janae's point, they don't have that confidence, they don't know how to sell it, and they see a barrier right there in the job posting. So it seems pretty obvious, but I think that's one thing we need to consider about. Again, how do we tell the story, and what are you really looking for in a candidate? What are the must-haves in terms of skills and experience? And does time and job matter as much? In some cases it does, but make sure you're not creating a barrier with any of the words or the criteria that you're putting on your job posting. And again, creating that experience on the front and the back end, essential. And for candidates, and I really want to say this mostly about those who are considering ghosting the potential employer. One, it's about being respectful, but also every interview you go on is an opportunity to practice interviewing and to expand your network. And if you don't show up, you might have missed an opportunity to meet someone who can introduce you to a role in a different organization through their network. And so never pass up the opportunity to practice interviewing and to expand your network. And then finally, to ask for that feedback. Take every opportunity, be curious to learn and grow about how you can be a better team member anywhere in the future.